Hey, how are you? It's Todd Baker here, and welcome to another edition of The Prosperous Agent. Today is November 2nd, 2012, and wanted to discuss with you today a strategy that I've learned about. I actually went out and found for you guys in response to some questions I kept getting and also some, not objections, but some challenges I kept hearing about. And it's not just here in Texas, but all over, but we keep hearing about, hey, there's a lack of inventory. We need listings. We need more listings because we don't have any in our inventory, or we need them because we have all these buyers and there's not enough inventory. And so the question is how do you develop that skill set to go out and find listings when inventory is down? And so what I did is I used a Google Alert feature, and I did a lot of research that who's out there that really has some good strategies that they're implementing right now. And lo and behold, of course, there was a great strategy just put out by Coach Tom Ferry that I'm going to talk to you about today. And before we do that, I want to share with you some insights that really are a continuation of some things we've been talking about, which is that the really high producing folks in our industry, whether they're real estate agents or whether they're loan officers, when you sort of pull back the curtain and see what's really going on, you discover that they're not really any different than you or I. The only difference is that the real high-end producing folks in our industry simply do the simple basic steps consistently and very well. Even if they don't like them doing them and they're afraid of doing them, they do them anyways. So I'm going to share a story, and then I'm going to sort of use that as an analogy to tell you about the strategy. So here's the story. So I went over today and had to meet with my daughter's counselor at Prosper High School. She's a junior. We were doing her college prep work. It really neat was just sat down, needed to know dates and deadlines and strategies and all that. And what struck me was that the counselor was talking about scholarships and how all this money that's available and what one would do in order to get access to these scholarships. And basically what she said was that there's this big universe of scholarships out there, many of which require an essay to be written. And, most kids don't want to write an essay. I know that right now I've become a good writer, but when I was that age, it wasn't something I liked to do, and so I understand. So because there's so many students that don't like to write essays, they don't apply for the scholarship. So it shrinks the universe what they can apply for, from out here to this much smaller amount. And then the other thing is that August 1st is typically the date that you can apply for the college and also for a lot of these scholarships. The kids that were really successful not only were willing to write the essay, but they started early, they started often, and she went over success story after success story, and where one kid got nothing and another kid got a full ride, including housing. And it's like, well, how does that happen? Well, they went after multiple scholarships. They did things, even if they're afraid to do them, they did them anyways, and they did the simple basic details, things that are right in front of you, things that were taught. Okay, so how does this relate to the strategy? Here's how. I had to tell you that because it's so simple. It's basically called the 5-5-4 strategy. And what I did is I've also included the link to Tom Ferry's video, to Coach Ferry's video, in this video so you can watch him deliver it, because it's much better coming from him than me. But the same token, all right, here's what it is. You're going to set aside time each week that we're going to call an hour of power. That was a Michael Mayer term. Michael Mayer is also a coach, so I teach his system. But what it is, it's time blocking for, by definition, unscheduled calls, meaning the recipient isn't expecting you to call. You didn't have a teleconference plan for that time. And you want to do this, you want to set this time block, preferably every day. However, for a lot of us, or for a lot of you, every day might not work out, especially if you're newer in the business. Okay. However, what will work out is you can at least do it twice a week. Okay. Now, the strategy is called 5-5-4. Okay, so there's the first 5 calls. Okay, the first 5 calls are going to go to your past clients and your sphere of influence. Okay, the next 5 calls are going to go to new conversations, meaning people you haven't spoke to before. And I know that makes all of us go, oh man, how am I going to find 5 new people? What do I do, get the an old-fashioned phone book out and start calling? And the answer is no, you don't do that. What you are going to do is that most of you have some online lead generation services. Okay, calling those even old leads, just do it. Okay, do it for the practice, do it to get your numbers up. call those 5 conversations, okay? 5 new conversations. But what can also be in there when you're out and about, you're wearing your badge, you're in your networking events, get into conversations. And there's an acronym called FROG, which is Family, Recreation, Occupation, and Goals. Learn how to communicate with people by asking them questions and start down the path of talking about their family, talk about the recreational activities, talk about their occupation, talk about their goals. And you have to practice these techniques so they come off natural and just part of your conversation. And what invariably happens is the other person will eventually say, what do you do for a living? And when you do, you better have a fantastic elevator script, much more than, oh, I'm a real estate agent. How about, I teach people how to become financially independent through homeownership. It's a completely unique system, and it's very rewarding. Something along those lines to generate more conversation. Now, so that's your second 5 calls. The last 4 calls are going to be to any new leads or new business you've talked to in the last few weeks. So these aren't, not brand new online leads, just any leads you're currently working with. And what you're going to do is you're going to ask each person that you get on the phone. And by the way, you can call and text. We're all starting to use text more. I started using it. I have agents that are using it, and the feedback. In fact, the strategy last week, one of my offices called me and said, "Hey, we're using text as well as cell, and they're getting responses. So use text or your cell is a number to call you back." But when you get into a live conversation, you're going to ask them 3 questions. The first one: do you know anyone that is having thoughts of selling? Now, that's easy, right? And you might have even been saying, oh, Todd, I've heard this before. Okay, but are you doing it? Have you ever sat back and actually asked that question? And have you done it once a week or twice a week? And if so, for how long? Because I guarantee you, any one of you you're going to say, yeah, I got a listing out of it. I've got some success out of that. The second question is they might say, well, yes or no. And, you have a chat about that. So let's say whatever the response is, let's say they say no. The next one is, have you had any thoughts of selling? Okay. And then the third question you're going to ask, do you know anyone who tried to sell and was unable to do so? Okay. So that 5-5-4 strategy will allow you to immediately get out and implement this upcoming week, at least 2 hours of outbound calls that will generate you some business, especially if you keep doing it over and over and over again. Be the person that's willing to write the essay. Be the person that's willing to apply early and apply often, and be the person that's willing to take your production from average to spectacular. So that's it for today. We'll have another episode next week. Please do me a favor. Click on the bottom of the email. There's a subscribe button, and then each week these will just come out to you automatically as well, even though I do email them. So thanks so much. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.